Doug Katsaros.
Are you recording?
I am recording. I'm recording.
Very
How
thrilled.
are you doing?
I'm good. Everything's good.
Awesome. Well,
happy to be in Charlotte.
Yeah, well, listen, man, it's been a long time. So for those of you who don't know, Doug Katsaros is one of the premier jingle writers in the world. I mean, and he's much more than that. I had the pleasure of working with Doug.
But that's what'll get me into heaven.
That's what's going to get you into heaven, buddy. That's exactly right. Doug and I worked together, 20 years ago on Footloose the Musical for Broadway with Dodger Theatricals. And, your resume is incredible. You're a composer, an arranger, an orchestrator, a musical director, a conductor, a keyboardist. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And you do this work with some of the biggest recording artists in the world. You do it for film and television. And as I've mentioned, you do it on Broadway.
Cool.
And you've also wielded your musical genius in the corporate world too, right? So writing some of the most well-known jingles ever. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about
I barely have to say anything. You're doing fine.
So I want to talk to you. I have a few questions about jingles. Because let's just imagine that our city, our home city, has come to us.
And now you froze. You went, let's just...
Oh, can you hear me now?
I got you. Oh, I got you now. Okay, good.
Okay, cool. So let's imagine that our home city of Charlotte, North Carolina, who's currently celebrating its 250th anniversary, let's just imagine that maybe they've come to us asking Tim and I to write the official jingle for the 250th anniversary. I would want to speak to someone like you to get some advice as to, the best way to do that. And so I have a few questions for you about your career in jingle writing, if that's okay.
I am ready. I am ready to help you in any way I can.
Okay, well, Doug, let's talk about this first. What makes a great jingle in your perspective, in your history of writing jingles? What makes a great jingle?
Melody, memorability, the earworm, the catchiness of it. And something that you don't mind hearing over and over, rather than something that is irritating to hear over and over. There are some jingles that you hear, like I'm just going to be bold here and say something: 1-800-7 cars for kids. KR. This is something that makes me turn the station, right?
Yeah.
So some jingles are like that. Although I gotta admit, now I know where to send my car if I ever want to throw it away.
It's stuck.
All right, so it's stuck. So it has that going for it. You want to make sure there are so many elements. It seems like a simple thing, like write a cute tune, and everybody will be happy. But you also want to make it fit your demographics, who you're going to try to reach for. If you're looking for older people, you're going to write different song than if you write for younger people. If you are going to say something, some people will accept imperfect rhymes. Some people will only accept really well-crafted rhymes. I know it sounds like, too much work, but it's important. There was an old jingle for Philadelphia cream cheese that was and you wake up this morning to Philadelphia brand cream cheese, and it was
it's like a half step down there.
Yeah, it's so weird, and like Leonard Bernstein wrote it or something, it's like some crazy thing.
Yeah.
And it was so odd and so beautiful that it just was. It brought you to a new place, even though you're talking about cream cheese,
Yeah.
So you always want to make sure you are writing for the ears of your listener.
Well, let's talk about your writing process. I mean, how do you personally go about creating a jingle? What's your process? And let's make sure that the folks watching this are very, very clear. You have written jingles for what I consider to be every company under the sun. I mean,
pretty much every company,
right? Pepsi, Coke,
Burger King, McDonald's, all the fast foods, all of the Amtrak, Army, anything, AC Delco,
Yeah, all of them. And what would you, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but what would you consider to be your most famous jingle or a few of your most famous jingles, if you were to say?
Well, I actually put this on my bio when if I'm in a Broadway show or whatever, it always ends. And yes, he is the guy who wrote By Menon.
You're the By Men guy,
I'm
Doug.
the By Menon guy. It got me on Oprah.
Yeah. Yes. Not only that, but it got you on Seinfeld.
Seinfeld
Costanza.
and
Jim
Scrubs,
Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan does a bit about it.
Scrubs and Family Guy,
And Family Guy. I mean, that it's you're in
and
the,
late night. No, it was the Daily Show. Jon Stewart used it. He's By Mennonite. And somebody said By Yemen. I think he may have said.
Well, so whether it's that the historic, the famous By Men or any other of the countless jingles you've written, what's your process? I mean, how do you go about creating the jingle? Where do you start?
Well, you want me to start with that one? That
Sure.
was a big festival of writers. There must have been 12 or more writers. I am the composer, so I worked in what they call a music house, and each music house has 4 or 5 composers, and there were several music houses working on By Menon at the time, and they said it was a tag, so it was supposed to be a tag is sort of different than a jingle. A jingle can take up to 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. A tag is the 3-second thing that pops at the end.
Mm-hmm.
10% from Ford or whatever it is.
Right. Yep.
So this, and all they had was By Menon, and it actually is spelled BYMENNEN. But the double entendre is that you're supposed to purchase Menon as well. So there's that little bit of cleverness. And they said, that's all we have. We want it to be able to be used on ladies' speed stick, men's products. Every single jingle we do, we want to end. Every single commercial we do, we want to end with that. So I wrote about 40 of them. And I just sat for a day and sat at the piano, and we were in a studio. And back in the day, we didn't have synthesizers. We sat with a piano, we sat with a microphone and a piano, and you started making stuff up. So I had by door slam, Mennen, by men, by Mennen, by Mennen, each one came up. And my number 12 had a little song before it, had a little boo chicka dooka boo boo ba doo boo by Mennen. So that's the reason the by is longer. By Mennen, because it goes over the hump.
It was a connective tissue. Yeah.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, by 1 Mennen. Is how it happened. And anyway, then we sent that in with the little introduction, and then the little introduction cut off. And out of 12 or 13 writers writing 20 to whatever of these things, my number 12 was the one that went. And you hit it with everything you have, every possible idea you can think. By Mennen, yada da da, whatever it is. Now they put the actual yada da da in there. McDonald's doesn't even have a thing. It's just ba da ba ba ba. It's just that. Or we are farmers. Bum 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 bum. They all have like the little melody surrounding the jingle to make it more unique. And
wow. It's so amazing to sort of hear about the actual gestation of a piece, of a 3 or 5 second piece of music, and something that's really been in the consciousness of America and beyond for decades now. It's incredible.
It's on Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's on Wikipedia.
Uh-huh.
So let me ask you a business question about jingle writing. Is a jingle considered a work for hire project, or does one receive sort of royalties or residuals off of
Oh,
jingles?
yes, on both. And let me just turn that on. It is a work for hire as a writer.
Okay.
So you get a demo fee if you're asked to write something. A couple $100, you write it, they do it. If you win, they pay you a lump of money, and they say, "Here you go. You're the writer. Here's your lump," and you share that with the producers, so that the company makes their money and you make your money. Um, and that's just unless you're the producer, that's how it works, and that's they stay in business and they are able to continue to keep their studio and their engineers and their representatives all working on the coattails of your talent, and so it's a self perpetuating cycle,
Yeah. Yeah.
like an agent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then if you play on it, I'm a good piano player.
Sure.
So keyboards or synthesizers, I get a musicians union payment for the session, and at the end of the year, you get a portion of the recording fund. People who have recorded split a union payment, all over the country. They split it. They get a little percentage of it. So you get a little Christmas present. Um, uh, if you're the orchestrator, you get paid a little fee for that. Here's your money to orchestrate. That's it. You never see that again. If you sing on it, you get SAG-AFTRA royalties, and they can be extremely lucrative.
Mm.
I have two commercials running on the air at the moment. One of them is, both of them are for um, drugs that
Okay.
that help you feel better. You may have heard them. One is for Symbicort.
Okay.
It's just background music,
Huh?
but they keep remaking the commercial, and so I keep getting paid each time they remake the commercial. I get paid again as if it was brand new.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, and the it's the one where Grandpa, the kid says, "Hey, do uh, am I supposed to wheeze like you wheeze, Grandpa, or something like that?" And then they show an animation of a wolf trying to blow out a birthday cake, and he can't do it. And then the three little pigs are in the thing. Anyway, that little thing, that's my music underneath
That's
that.
yours.
And the other thing is Trilogy. We were approached to do uh, a version of the Jackson 5 ABC. It's easy as one, two, three, except it was Trilogy, the power of one, two, three. And it's like
Yep.
three little steps and you Trilogy. And I don't sound, even if I put as many effects on as I can, like Michael Jackson. So I asked my daughter, my youngest daughter, to come in and sing my little demo in my little second bedroom studios, that I sent it out, and the clients fell in love with her voice, and now my daughter is the Michael Jackson voice on Trilogy. It's easy as one, two, three.
I've heard it. I've
In
heard it.
order to do it, she had to join the union because it was a professional thing, and the union payments started coming in, and she said, I've always wanted to play guitar. And she went out and bought a Marshall amp and a nice Ibanez guitar, and she's now
It's a
rocking out.
slippery
She's got
slope, Doug.
clothes. It's a crazy thing. She's paying for her college education, and all because of this thing. So if you can get to be a singer, that's where the writing singer players really benefit.
Well, I feel like you've really teed me up for this forthcoming negotiation with our city because we need to make sure we got ourselves covered and protected.
Definitely,
That's
definitely
right.
on the performances. Every time somebody plays it, you were saying before we started recording, you mentioned something about by MENNEN, and you sang it, and I wanted to remind you that you owe me a quarter.
Yes, I owe you a quarter. I'm going to send it in as if you're the Columbia Records, Columbia House. Remember that when you had to send a
Exactly.
penny in?
Right.
I'm gonna
Exactly.
send that into you.
That's right. I will be your Spotify.
Let's end with this question, Doug. do you have any personal favorites from your catalog or greatest hit or something? I mean, obviously we have talked about the by MENNEN and things like that, but do you have a favorite that you remember writing and it still is kind of it rises to the top inside of your catalog?
There was the just for the taste of it, Diet Coke. It's
I
not bad.
mean,
That was
amazing.
fun. And that was with and we did that. There was an Elton John was working on something, and they were going to do a commercial with him and another artist. They finally ended up on the dancer. Her name is escaping me at the moment. But he needed
Was it
Paul Abdul. Exactly.
Paul Abdul. Okay.
Right. She wasn't the original one, but she's who came in on it, and we wrote that. And then he was doing another a version where they had Satchmo and here's looking at you, kid, and whatever, in the commercial with him. And
Yep.
The Alessi brothers wrote a jingle for that, but it ended with just for the taste of it, Diet Coke, So they kept the tagline, the tag,
Yeah.
which is nice. Used on things. So I worked on both of them, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, all I can say is it is an honor to chat with you for the first time in 20 years, too. But to really dig deep.
How are the kids?
Yeah, exactly. To dig deep into your jingle writing process, I feel so much more ready now to
Yes.
create an incredible jingle for our city's 250th anniversary.
Well, for a small fee, you can borrow by MENNEN.
Oh,
yeah.
That's another 25 cents.
50. There you go. Exactly right.
Perfect. Doug, you're the best, man.
No, it doesn't work. All right. Yeah.
Thanks for spending a few minutes.
Charlotte is where you are. 250 years. I don't know.
You know what? You're going to end up winning this gig. I know it.
No. Go be original. Be original. And don't be precious, by the way. What you want to do, the last bit of advice I want to give you is don't get married to what you write. It's the clients. You're making the clients happy. Like Mozart wrote just because that's where it was being paid, or Bach wrote all of those hundreds of things because it was church services. He needed something every Sunday, so he wrote thousands of things for all the Sundays he had to go to church and did this stuff. It's you write for the client, so whatever they ask for. If they say I need E.T., it needs to sound like E.T. looking for a flower played by ZZ Top, you're like, absolutely, I can do that. And that's where you go. All right?
I love it.
It's only the word 250.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Doug Katsaros, the Bach and the Mozart of the jingle world. Thank you, Doug, so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure, man. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.